I'm Orm Mitchell, who, with my wife Barbara Mitchell, wrote the play, and we had a lot of fun doing it together.
I'm Nathan Schmidt, and I'm playing the theatrical version of W. Mitchell.
Theatrical version. I'm Barb Mitchell, the co-author with Orm Mitchell.
Hi, I'm Karen Johnson-Diamond, and I am directing the production of Magic Lies and Evening with W.O. Mitchell.
Tell them where we met.
Yeah, we met playing duets on the piano. The music teacher got us together, introduced me. Orm took the best part of the piece that we were assigned to play, but
She means the right hand at the top.
Right. And so we started dating.
That's
from
right.
That.
Met in the piano bench.
And here
It's
we
hard
are.
to make out in the piano bench. That's why we started.
When were you in piano lessons? How old were y'all?
Oh,
Yeah.
we were
15 and 16.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Amazing.
so romantic.
Oh, no kidding.
Did the piano teacher come to the wedding?
no.
No.
Oh.
We had a very family-oriented wedding
In
at
Banff.
Banff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
But we've done a duet ever since.
Nice.
Yeah, we've done a lot of writing together. So he was bedridden for the last 3 years of his life in a hospital bed in the family room at Calvary House. So we wanted to cook up a project to keep him engaged. So we said, well, why don't you do that book that you thought about doing years ago called An Evening with W.O. Mitchell, where you draw together the various performance pieces that you used for your one-man shows. And so he liked that idea, and so that really kept him engaged. Barb and I edited, and we pulled together there were about 31 pieces in it. And I can
listen to the tapes that had been made by people listening to so we could check one version against another version, right? And that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. And it was neat to see, we would come and say, get him to read, here are the pieces that we selected, and what do you think? And he was sharp, there was one or two where he said, I don't like these, and then he said, what about? And so he was involved.
Great.
So we edited and we wrote little introductions to each of the pieces, really drawing attention to him as a performer, as an actor, because his first love, remember, was acting.
Yeah.
Well, it's lovely that full circle that he started as an actor, became a writer, and now there's the play written where Nathan gets to act W.O. Mitchell as an actor.
Yeah.
Well, he loved to talk with actors, and in fact, he did another acting role, remember, in the Anne of Avonlea series.
Right, television.
Yeah, he played the old curmudgeon.
Yeah.
That would be in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that was Sarah Palsy.
Sarah
Pauli, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
He remembers he loved talking to Sarah Pauli between takes and so
right.
on. That was so he loved to talk about with actors and directors about how close writing, creative writing and acting were, because how you had to draw his what he called Mitchell's messy method of writing. You draw on your own autobiographical experience in order to create your characters.
Right.
And you also have to have a very observant eye. And he was, all into the method acting, for example, stuff. And that was quite prevalent with Brandon. This is around the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that connection between acting and writing always rang strong for him. He was a parent who had a lot of time and wanted to have a lot of time to play with his kids, and he played with us. We when we were married, we were always visiting mom and dad in Calgary, or they were with us in Peterborough, because he was always coming east to do CBC or television media stuff, or release a new novel. And we went to Hawaii, and right up to when they were still able to travel. And I remember he used to say something that I really liked. he said, it's so fun to be with you guys because well, I know you're not slumming
Yes, it's
with
not slumming.
older people.
Yeah.
He was up until the end when he was in pretty rough shape. He was always engaged. He was always fun to be around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Morris has said a number of times, he just adores how much your family adored each other.
Yeah.
And just the parent-child relationship, brother-sisters relationship, it's just, he said it's such a family burst of love.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah, I don't doubt it at all, especially the way you write.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's it like to direct someone in a one-person show?
Mhm.
What challenges are there that you have to kind of deal with?
Oh.
Be kind.
Trying to get him to take a break. How's that?
Oh.
Maybe we'll stop an hour early today, Nathan, because it's a long time for one person and their brain working, and he's too hard of a worker. He's too dedicated, which is glorious and wonderful.
Have you directed him before?
I have not directed him before. I think I've done a workshop with him. My son has acted with him, but I've never directed him before. I've directed a one-person show before, but in both cases, it was a show where the lead narrator, or the centerpiece, plays a whole bunch of different characters.
Mm.
And that removes a lot of the challenges for some
Yeah.
reason, because you get these lovely ups and downs through the script, like moments of big energy and then back down. And so it often doesn't feel sometimes like a one-person show, and you'll notice that
Right.
when he's doing
Mm-hmm.
Melvin Arbuckle's story,
Yes.
where he has to play 7 characters or something in that one.
One with an
Oh,
English
oh.
accent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So it's very we talked about this a lot in rehearsal, just how well it's set up in the script that we reach the end of a story and then there's a snuff and then there's a lovely ramp into the next story, and how the links go through Melvin Arbuckle's granddad into Grandma McMurray. I said McDougal earlier.
Yeah,
Yes.
McMurray, yeah.
Sorry,
We
McMurray.
didn't correct you, but we
No,
You
yeah.
should have,
I was
because
hoping
now it's
that.
on the
Yeah.
thing. Anyway, there's just lovely through lines, and I just have to say, my favorite is just the age references of him, the aging of him through his childhood from 7 to 10 to
Yeah.
11 to 15. It's just,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. So, the challenge I guess that we face, not really a challenge really, but what we're really aware of is that Nathan's playing a very celebrated real person.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that the audience knows that this is not W.O. Mitchell and that they're watching somebody play him. 10 minutes into the show, though, you stop thinking that it's an actor on stage. You just hear the words of W.O. Mitchell and the storytelling. So
Good.
I'm what's the word I want? I'm pumping it up, but I think he's done a great job. And
What's it like for you in a one-man show, dealing with that and
Just the fact that it is a real person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for sure, that's been a big part of the conversation too. Coming into the rehearsal, I'm like, is there any video of him doing these things? Like what did he look like on stage? And we did learn a little bit. There's a National Film Board.
Yes, there's
One
that.
Yeah,
where he
documentary.
does, where he's got the glasses with no leg on the side, and they're all tilting, and he's trying to read it. But we were really struck by just kind of to business of it, and that was a really important sort of energy of he came in and he just set his books down and then he just started.
Yeah.
There wasn't and then when it was done, it was just done, and it was like
What
okay,
was he
and I'm
doing
up.
on that
What did
documentary?
he
Was
did?
it one of these performances?
He did a quote of at the end of it. It was Daddy Sherry from The Kite.
Yeah.
He does like a last breath of Daddy Sherry sort of, and he leaves it at that, and he's just done, and it's off.
Yep.
And he just walks off.
Yep.
I didn't even think there was really about. And so, anyways, that energy of how he approached we got to see that one little snippet, and of course I listened to a whole bunch of stuff, and I don't have the there's things where I can be like, oh, I can't actually make that happen. Lots of it was microphone, you know, and things like that. And he had his voice was so low and kind of, like lots of vocal gravel. And that hard to project it throughout the theater. And so I had to kind of grab other elements of the voice that I thought, well, this is still indicative of, you know, so but for sure it's like I've done lots of characterization and like played, you know, what would be considered characters or older people than me, but when it's also a real person, there's it feels like a more responsibility to.
Yes, that's a good word.
And you know, we're also in this time of things like The Crown, and where these actors are embodying these historical people, and some, you know, of course, some are still alive. You know, in the case of Charles, or you know, or the Queen was still alive when that first season of The Crown came out, and you know, and people are embodying them, and you know, but we're not in film either. No. You know, so what became most important was the energy of the man, and it's so clear in his readings. You know, so hopefully those are the things that have been captured, and some, you know, some phrasing things, or how, you know, even how he, in the one recording, he'd say, Madam Brocklebank's School of Dance, Drama, Music, and Elocution. You know, like there's a rise and a fall to the voice, and of course, you know, you talk about his acting, and you know, you listen to these recordings, he's incredibly adept at
his timing is really good. And that was something he really prided himself on, was the timing, and letting when he was doing the creative writing course at Capel Valley, and he acted the devil and Daniel Webster for what's her name, who was doing the drama school at the time. He was teaching his creative writing, and she in the rehearsals, she used this line that I just love, because W.O. could tend to overact. And Mom would pull him back. But what she said was, Bill, don't squeeze all of the juice out of the orange. Leave some for the audience. Wonderful advice.
Yeah, sure.
And I think it got better and better as it as it went through each craft.
Well, and it'll be, you know, you'll get to see it now too, and see how it plays and how that feels to you, and what we've done with it anyways in terms of interpreting what was on the page, and you know, so that'll be another step in your process.
Has it been fun for you guys?
Oh yeah.
It's been fun.
Oh, it's been a hoot.
So fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been great. I mean, we need some people now to come and participate with it. You know, like you say at the end of the story, like this is the thing. This relationship between the audience and the story is what, and it's what we love in the theater. Yeah. That's the relationship. So now our work sort of starts meeting audiences, and so that's exciting. Yeah.
So you talk about the storytelling and him being immortal through his stories. That's one of the best things I think that happened in our rehearsal hall, is that we kept stopping and having to tell stories, things that your dad told you necessarily that you were like, is that really true? Things that, you know, that I've passed on to my kids and my mom told me and no one actually knows, but it has really just reminded us how fabulous that is.
But he liked the idea of things being handed down, families being, you know, and Who's Seen the Wind, there are these wonderful descriptions of prairie and of the telephone poles, and when Brian looks at them, he sees one telephone pole after another, and it reminds him there was his father died, and his father died, and that idea of
apostolic succession.
Thank you, apostolic connection. He loved the idea of families having that kind of connection. And like orchids, he said, the way orchids grow, he said they grow in the bark and they keep growing across the bark. And they're immortal. They'll just keep going, you know, the old leaves will drop and they'll just keep going, even though it's the same plant. You know? Well, I remember someone saying to him, do you think that you are immortal through your writings? And he said, no, I think I'm immortal through my children and their children and their children. And that's why, you know, family stories are so important.
Well, all right. Well, we'll go practice our plays.
Yeah.
Get it right.
Skip practice.
And And enjoy your time in Rosebud.
All right.
We'll see you tonight.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren.
I hope they have some scotch or something at the end of this. So.
Oh, I can bring a bottle.
That's
Should bring this to the back.